The scripture of the founding master of Won Buddhism, Chapter 7, The Principle of the Nature, verse 13. The founding master addressed all his disciples at Bongnae Hermitage. A long time ago, a scholar asked his teacher about the way, and the teacher said, "Were I to teach you about it, it would be against the way. Were I not to teach you, it would be against the way. So what shall I do?" Do you understand what he meant? The congregation was silent and could not answer. At the time, it was the winter and white snow was piled in the yard. The founding master stood up and went outside and started to clear the snow from the courtyard himself. A disciple quickly went outside and grabbing the snow shovel from him, asked the master to go back inside. The founding master said, "What I did right now was not just to clear the snow, but to teach the arcane realm to you all."
I had sent this verse on to Reverend Lee. Usually before my Dharma talk, I take the time to go into the scripture book and within the moment of my practice, find what resonates. In essence, creates the spark of what I am trying to discuss. And verse 13 in the Principle of the Nature, quite frankly, walloped me. In a very positive way, because sometimes the use of that term, being walloped, can be negative, but it was in a very positive way. One of the core teachings here, or as I view core teachings, is when one is beginning to start in their practice, they are discovering what it is to sit, what it is to be still. In the course of that journey of finding a sangha, moving forward with other students, taking the time to speak with a reverend or a fellow practitioner, you will further learn to not only sit, but partake in moving practice, but in the core, and potentially after that a retreat, but in the process of all finding that and however long it takes for that individual, is to also take that practice and make it and place it into your daily life. It's to take the balance of time to, of course, whether it be sitting at home, in the park, at the temple, but in your day-to-day engagement. And certainly with the utilization of that practice, there has been, within the past couple of years, and what shall be for the rest of my life, is now being apparent, a grand shift of what I had taken my practice to be and to apply it to my everyday life when I now have a son who's 4, who for every single moment, practically, by my perception, every single moment, is asking me, why? 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 And there are times where I'm able, or at least by my perception, I apply an adult answer Sometimes I get caught up in the moment of the most infamous parental answer, because I said so. And then there's times where I'm able to acknowledge he's, in the asking of the why, it's so much more than what I view to be the simplicity of the question. And where I make a connection to within this verse here of where a scholar asked his teacher about the way, and the teacher said, were I to teach you about it, it would be against the way. Would I not teach you, it would be against the way. It's striving to find that balance, because I'm seeing before my eyes the person who my son is becoming. And in turn in the other part of this verse here of talking about the master and the student and the master. It's just, where I'm the father, he's the son, I'm the father, and the split moment, little things of him becoming four. By no means am I letting him get into any type of trouble, but I can feel this like role reversal, for lack of a better term. And in that process of that role reversal of having to be further present, and then equally with my daughter, who will be 2 in December, she's already proceeding to tell me how the world works. And I'm purposely making that funny face in front of you all, like, she's trying to tell me, and then when I proceed to tell her, or intercede, however you want to look at it, she is just going, oh no, Daddy. What? So the connection, in the process of the connection that I'm making there, is the very dynamic of where my practice has greatly shifted, but I also view further applied to what the founding master was talking about, of your daily practice within your daily life, and striving to incorporate it in all aspects. Tying back into when we're first discovering, applying meditation, and just as we did earlier, we sat here, we listened to Reverend Lee, we navigate and find the steps that work for us to be able to sit, be still, follow our breath, allow our thoughts that can become encompassing and anvils, in a sense, to become nothing more than clouds that just move along. There are opportunities within our daily lives to further apply that. And this past week, I want to be very clear, I'm good, I'm healthy, but earlier this week there was a cold that went through the house. And in turn, this was Saturday into Sunday, so over a week, I had come down with a fever, and overall just wasn't feeling well. And for me not to feel well, and not by choice, for a term that we use here, stop dead in our tracks, is not necessarily feasible within a household of two little ones who will just literally run circles. And also in support with my partner and my wife in trying to run the household. I can't really remember a time prior to this in feeling this bit of a anxious of a moment of, here I am, I'm not feeling well. We still got to get through tubby time. At this point in time, I haven't even found a verse or an idea of a Dharma talk in any shape or form. I had some other things going on at work. I was like, what am I going to do? And I went, well, let's sit in it. Let's meditate with a fever. Let's, if necessary, chant Namami Tabu, go back to the Heart Sutra. It was within that moment of just going, oh, woe is me, what am I going to do? It was re-acknowledging the tools that I have access to, the means that I have as a student of Won Buddhism, and in turn, Jenny equally recognizing with me of, Mike's not doing good. He's going to need to take a little bit of a step back of what we need to do together to get things accomplished. And I found myself meditating while in the midst and the grips of a fever. It was, in a manner of speaking, invigorating. It was a moment of impermanence, of just acknowledging with myself, well, this is not how I don't know if normally is the right word, how I find the time or make the time to conduct my practice. In the moment of saying hey Jenny, I just need a little bit, shut down a little bit, let me sit in my recliner. My daughter, without really just saying, yet again, she's 1.5. What is she truly, she has a great vocabulary, but what is she truly gonna say? Jenny agrees and goes, why don't we all just sit here? They haven't really taken naps. Why don't we try to get them to nap? My daughter Evie just crawls up into my arms and goes to sleep. My son Aiden proceeds to go into another room. It wasn't that I sit there and made some proclamation. I just need to sit here and I need to meditate and everybody give me time. It was just saying how I needed time to just sit there. And then internally I went, this is the moment to seize. And to see where I can further navigate or do what I need to do. And if necessary, further communicate I'm done, I'll be of no use. But my daughter, she just went, it was in a manner of speaking, unspoken. Equally almost tied into this moment, or as I view it, of when the founding masters simply just got up in front of the students to maneuver the snow. In the turn, and though he was further showcasing them what he referred to as the arcane realm, I usually look at it as life. Life doesn't stop, life doesn't wait, it just keeps going, a part of the journey. And in turn, without it being said, my children, whether they be equally referred to as students, but I view them as masters in their own right, They just went down. It's like no fuss, no muss. So they're down. Jenny took that as a cue of being able to take a nap. And I could have easily dozed off. Oh, that would have been nice. But I remember just sitting there going, now this is the moment. And I was following my breath. I'm not equally saying sitting here, hey, next time you get a fever, meditate towards it. Please take the time how you feel when you're not feeling well and do what you need to do to feel better. But applying my practice, if not dare say in this arcane moment that became a moment of peace and tranquility, it was acknowledging all the symptoms that I had, but equally knowing I was going to be okay. It was like almost going in reverse of the checklist. I know I will find a verse. I know I will sit here before the Sangha that I support and in turn supports me to be able to discuss here today. That in the moment of not feeling well is but a moment that this too shall pass. That there's still much to do when the children wake up, but we shall, in turn, I shall get it done with Jenny, because confidence is the right word, felt that arising enough in that moment to get back to our daily activities. And then within the acknowledgement of getting back in the daily activities of just going, is this what Master Sudazan was talking about? And the other head Dharma masters of truly applying the daily practice within one's daily life. Because I sit here and I describe everything that I do that goes on in my life. It doesn't mean that's your daily life. That doesn't mean it's your daily life or yours. But we're all a part of our own journey. Also in the process of this week, where it began with myself not feeling well, Evelyn inevitably it was her turn. And we had just gotten out of the woods with her with a sleep regression. And we had finally hit this pocket of time where she was sleeping through the night, but now not feeling well. Was not some pleasant nights. And I found myself equally applying my practice in the middle of the night. I remember a few instances from the very short distance it takes me to get up from my room to her room, waking up being angry. Angry that I wasn't getting sleep. And in the process of getting up out of bed and being angry, by the time that short walk from there to my daughter's room is where I would apply a moving meditative practice to the point of consoling her, sitting with her, and then in the course it would take me to get her back to sleep of being up and, in essence, being in a sitting meditative practice. And that's, in tying into that verse there of, this is the arcane realm, view of an arcane realm momentarily of just not feeling well, just being miserable. I know I could have walked in there and potentially been miserable too, and what was that going to solve? What was that going to be of any benefit to her or to me? Of equally of, even though I'm the parent, she's the daughter, and at the end of the verse here, we're talking a very student goes out to the founding master and takes the right out of his hand and tells him to go back inside. I had viewed, because I had already, I was coming across, this was one of the 3 verses that I was looking upon. But this is where I had this moment of, metaphorically speaking, in her misery of being in the cold, where the founding master was out in the cold. I could go over to her and, the cold was this, take it back and go, okay, you're gonna be fine. You're in my arms. It's saying all the consoling things that you would say to another person who was suffering, which just in my case was my daughter. And it was just applying movement practice, sitting practice, finding the very motion in the rocking chair with her to get her back into a relaxed state and for her to fall asleep. But there was times even in the midst of the darkness, I knew she was literally looking right at me, crying and having these tissues, wipe her nose and just console her. She's not understanding the very sinus pressure. And where I woke up being angry, by the time I'm getting her back into the bed, I was thankful. And then going back to bed myself, and then waking up, because 4:45 comes awfully early. Waking up with my alarm of, there were days I fully acknowledged, I'm waking up miserable. And that's okay. For everything that was experienced shall not be forever. This moment shall pass. And in the process of the passing of this moment, falls into that balance of, were I to teach it about you, it would be against the way. Were I not to teach you, it would be against the way. That's the word that really is coming to me, and I know I'm saying it over and over, is balance. And as a student, as a practitioner, of finding the balance that works for you. Like I said, we all start in that aha moment, wherever we were sitting, whatever we were doing, acknowledging the more or what resonated towards us to find ourselves on the mat. And then the time it takes to sit there on the mat, because I can equally remember, thinking 10 minutes on the mat, sitting perfectly still. Oh my gosh. And now as to where my practice is to get 10 minutes on the recliner and have someone not pulling on my pant leg. Or in turn of some other life matter coming up I've found myself applying more and more within my daily life the use of this practice and the teachings of Won Buddhism. I think that's it for today.
Thank you. Do you have any question or sharing?
Thank you, by the way. It always amazes me how anytime there's a Dharma talk, it seems to always connect with what is going on with me at that given time. A couple things. Sometimes I feel personally it's hard for me to express what is going on, but the connection that I feel is, what's kind of brought me here was a situation that I look back on my past, which was very extreme and a lot of suffering, but I identified with that. That's who I was. Now I know I'm not. And what I've noticed recently is that my mind, I connect with like what you said with the cloud passing, when your thoughts are like clouds. And if I think of my past, my cloud was always there, dark, and I felt it here all the time. It was a feeling that I had that I couldn't escape, and I wanted to. Now I see that there's a break in that, very large break. I mean, it's completely different now. It's because of meditation. It's because of being present with what's actually going on and not adding. What I do is add to the future all the time. I see things in my mind now very clearly as like seasons. It's very easy to see for me as a teacher. I'm a teacher, and a lot of the suffering that's based off of things that have nothing to do with being a teacher in my past come to light in my job. That's what's so obvious to me and how my patterns are. But it's very easy to see how a teacher has the summer off. And it's a great thing for so many reasons. And what I see now is I had a pattern in the summer. I feel it now. I see the pattern starting up. It happens all the time. Summer's great. Very little chatter going on in my mind. I'm noticing everything around. Life is great. Start getting closer to school, and that's when it starts up. It's a new group of kids. I'm teaching something new this year, and it becomes an almost like an atmosphere that I live within, that my thoughts take over. It's an emotion that stays. It just stays. But now taking meditation and putting it into my life, like taking exactly what goes on when you're sitting there and knowing that when I sit down in meditation, right now there's all this other stuff going on that keeps pulling me away, but that's okay. Bring it back when you can. So like a teacher, I give myself assignments. I am not going to give my opinion about anything on a given day, because I know if I give my opinion, sometimes I don't feel good about it afterwards. So that's my assignment for that day. And then as I do that, it extends, and I do that at work. Pay attention to what's going on around you. And just focus, just like you're focusing on your breath. Focus on the sky. Focus on a tree. Even if it's a short period of time, I'm going to go away from it. But that's how I connect with that. Sorry, I might have talked a little too long.
I greatly appreciate you sharing. I mean, in the utilization of the practice and building off of what you're saying there, it is to apply to your daily life. One of the other, I don't really know if it would be labeled as a practice, since becoming a parent and having the opportunity in utilizing what was called parental leave, that in turn my father did not have access to. I got to be home the first 2 to 3 months when my children were born. And what I'm tying that into is something I did. It was something I started then, and I still do it now. And that is when my children fall asleep in my arms, I take the time to look at them. I, even more so as with my son, as I mentioned earlier, in turning 4, and I am just witnessing the great, who he was at 3 and who he is now at 4 is like looking at the Pacific Ocean and the Atlantic Ocean. It's still the ocean, but it's just the difference of everything across the board. But I can sit there and not be attached that I missed out on something, and that I am equally witnessing this change, this becoming, this lesson of impermanence within itself, of paying attention in the moment, of striving to be in the moment, of simply just holding my daughter or him. That I can acknowledge when seeing my nephews, as I'm an uncle who's involved in their lives, but it's not the role of an uncle to be, well, I'm not saying every uncle, because who am I to know of other people's life journeys? It wasn't my role. They had their mother and father. I wasn't involved in that everyday thing. So there's moments where like I catch looking at them just going like, excuse my French, where did you come from? Like, and just not seeing it each and every day. But with my own children, I'm thankful for my practice and permitting, whatever the right word is, of I'm doing everything I can to be in the moment with you, because there's going to come a time and place where in the further development of your individuality, I'm not going to be the cool guy. It's not that I need to be the cool guy, but what I mean by that is I want to go be with my friends. I want to go do this. I want to go do that. I haven't like crossed that bridge there. I might be getting a little more ranting there, but yeah, it's just since my mother passed over a year ago, taken the moment of when seeing my father. I had a friend of mine recently ask me, he goes, yeah, we all got together, we're all hanging out, but when I come in, I start the conversation, him and I start the conversation saying we love one another, peck and a hug, and at the end of the conversation, we do it again, and a friend of mine came up to me and went, what is that? And I'm like, what's what? He just did it. I go, what'd I do? And he explained everything. I go, with my dad. Yeah, I don't do that with my dad. I go, all right, well, I'm not judging you. And he goes, well, why do you? I go, you want me to be born? And he goes, yeah. I go, you got your mommy and daddy. I just got my daddy. And he's just like, wow. I go, okay. Different strokes for different folks. I'm like, okay. But I try to be mindful, or strive to be mindful, strive to be in the moment. And equally strive not to say too often, as I acknowledge I say to my son, because I said so. Sometimes I just feel when I say that I'm not being in the moment. I'm just frustrated, fed up, and I'm just like, don't you ask me, don't you inquire, and just do it. And it's just like, why am I telling them to just do it? Take the time to explain, take the time to be the example. Any other questions? Comments?